Welcome back, everyone, to another Deep Dive Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, let me tell you, we're about to unpack an absolute masterclass in workplace dynamics. We're looking really closely at the thematic analysis of the crisis presented in Clip 39, the office party confession. In this analysis, we're going to pull back the curtain on how toxic management literally operates in the shadows, how corporate betrayal actually goes down, and most importantly, the exact anatomy of real, true accountability. This isn't just some story about petty office drama. It's a blueprint of how systems protect themselves and how brave individuals can totally dismantle those systems.
Okay, let's dive into this. This realization from Bennett, it's the core thesis of our entire analysis today. It just perfectly captures the illusion of corporate harmony. You know how it is. A company can order the fancy catering, hang up the string lights, and force literally everyone to smile for a culture party to prove that all past sins are totally forgiven. But we all know that's just a performance, right? The real company culture is what happens in the quiet corners, in the careless little jokes, when the people holding the power think nobody who matters is actually listening. Keep this quote in the back of your mind, because it's the exact lens through which we're going to view every single piece of evidence today.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the careless party confession, the deflection and tone policing that followed, following the digital trail, breaking the office silence, and finally what real leadership and accountability actually looks like. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the careless party confession, and how ordinary objects tell the truth.
Now, to understand the gravity of the drama that's about to unfold, we really have to look at the history here. This annual office party was entirely manufactured by leadership to prove that the company culture was completely healed after months of some serious internal turbulence. But, as you'll see, ordinary objects like a microphone, a calendar invite, and email log, they have a really funny way of telling the truth when people try to lie. Look at the timeline. Months ago, the company was rocked by the 11:59 p.m. file scandal. Then, just weeks ago, we had the fallout from a stolen promotion where Rebecca Sloan took credit she didn't deserve. And that brings us to today, 8 p.m., the culture party. Everyone is essentially told to move on and celebrate. But then, at 10:30 p.m., the facade completely cracks.
And here is the pivotal twist. During the party, senior executive Victor Hale makes a super careless joke. He raises a glass and jokes about surviving the 11:59 p.m. folder. But there is a massive, massive problem with that punchline. That specific phrase, the 11:59 p.m. folder, was never made public during the internal audits. It was a completely hidden detail. But Ethan, the quiet data analyst, he hears it. Olivia from HR hears it. And CEO Claire Morgan hears it. In literally one careless sentence, Victor accidentally reveals what months of formal investigations couldn't.
Moving right along to Section 2, deflection and tone policing, the weaponization of perception.
So it's the morning after the party. The secret is out, the tension in the office is just palpable, and this is where we see the absolute weaponization of perception. We get a front row seat to how quickly toxic leaders scramble to control the narrative before hard facts can even be checked. Just look at this highly calculated strategy by Rebecca Sloan. She stands in front of the team with this perfectly rehearsed calm demeanor, and she drops this line. Notice how she doesn't accuse Bennett directly. That would be way too easy to disprove. Instead, she aims suspicion directly at the most familiar, easiest target. By phrasing it as, "we all know," she forces the rest of the office into a corner. Either agree with her or stick your own neck out. It's awful, but offices often prefer a familiar suspect over an uncomfortable question, and Rebecca knows exactly how to exploit that human weakness.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Rebecca follows up her little insinuation. She schedules a culture alignment huddle. Guys, this is a classic, deeply manipulative management tactic known as tone policing. Instead of looking at the actual evidence in the server logs, Rebecca speaks in this soft language of healing and trust and aims it right at Maya. She demands accountability, sure, but she defines accountability as having the right tone. People aren't being asked to evaluate the evidence anymore, they are being asked to evaluate who sounds easier to punish. Maya hits the nail on the head when she realizes it. When truth threatens power, tone becomes the trial.
And this is the exact moment the battle lines are officially drawn. We're looking at two completely conflicting motivations here. Rebecca uses corporate healing language to hide. She tries to totally dismiss the data by claiming facts are being used carelessly. But ethical leaders like Daniel Reed, they know better. He counters her immediately. You see, manipulative managers will constantly use morale as an excuse to bury the truth. But true leaders know that hard facts are the only real foundation you can actually rebuild trust on.
All right, Section 3,
Following the digital trail, or as I like to call it, the details nobody wants to see.
So, while the executives are busy managing perceptions and organizing all these pointless alignment huddles, our quiet heroes, Maya, Noah, and Ethan, they shift their focus to the digital trail. Because while corporate narratives move fast, digital footprints, they do not lie. Maya starts digging into the tiny, stubborn details that just refuse to behave. These are the details nobody else wants to look at because it complicates their nice, easy narrative. She notices mismatched timestamps on the files. She sees irregular naming conventions that totally defy standard protocol. System notifications that should have triggered are just mysteriously missing. Heck, even the font in a memo header is wrong. These aren't just typos, folks. They are literally the breadcrumbs of a cover-up. It's like a giant puzzle they're finally piecing together.
And then the massive breakthrough comes from the server logs. Noah, the IT and compliance specialist. He pulls the data and boom. Look at that dull gray row of evidence right there. They find this identical pattern across multiple archived incidents. It's the same senior approval chain every time. And look at the exact cleanup language used in the status column. Contain, stabilize, reset. It is all right there in black and white. The system wasn't broken at all. Actually, scratch that. It was operating exactly as it was quietly redesigned to operate.
So the crucial point is summarized perfectly in Maya's totally chilling realization here. Think about it. A typo is a mistake. An accidental deletion is a mistake. But a clean pattern, executed the exact same way, using the exact same language, by the exact same executive accounts, that is a method. Maya realizes that the original scandal was never just a one-off misunderstanding. It was a systemic method designed specifically to test whether the company had actually changed, or if the executives could still just get away with burying the truth.
Which brings us to Section 4, Breaking the Office Silence. Courage isn't always loud.
Okay, so we've seen all the evidence gathered, but how do you actually confront a system that is fundamentally designed to silence you? Well, we learn right here that breaking the office silence isn't always about yelling or making some grand dramatic speech. Daniel Reed finally draws a line in the sand with this absolutely incredible statement. He just quietly closes his laptop, stands up, and plainly states the exact thing everyone else is avoiding. He flat out refuses to let Maya be tone-policed again. This is a moment of quiet, steadfast courage that instantly stops Rebecca's manipulative rhythm in its tracks. By simply refusing to play along with the unwritten rules of this toxic culture, Daniel makes the cowardice of the management team entirely visible to every single person in that room.
And this brilliantly illustrates a major turning point for HR partner Olivia during that incredibly tense classroom confrontation. Victor is in there arguing about process. Rebecca is arguing about perception. But Olivia? She finally sees right through the whole shebang. If your corporate processes are just being used to shield power instead of finding the truth, well, it's not a process at all. It's just choreography. It's an exhausting dance designed entirely to wear down the whistleblower. When she realizes this, it completely changes the temperature in the room.
And finally, Section 5, Real Leadership and Accountability, Changing the Rules of the Game.
So the executives are cornered. The evidence is completely out in the open. And then CEO Claire Morgan enters the room. This right here is where we see the stark, night and day difference between a manager who protects the system and a true leader who changes the rules entirely. Claire doesn't walk in and offer some fluffy motivational speech. No way. She looks right at the hard data, Maya and Noah mapped out on the screen, and she asks this single, paralyzing, incredibly clean question. Victor tries to interrupt, of course, but this question stops him instantly. Why? Because nobody needs to answer it. The guilty party, the person who benefited from all that forced confusion and all those buried files, is standing right there in the room with them.
And guys, this is what actual operational accountability looks like in practice. There are no cultural alignment huddles. There are no vague, empty promises to do better next time. Claire takes immediate action. She orders an independent review. She instantly freezes the disputed decisions. She explicitly protects the brave employees who actually provided the evidence. And most crucially, she rips away system access from the accounts tied to the pattern. She literally dismantles the tools of the abusers on the spot. Claire delivers this final warning, and it beautifully ties together the entire overarching theme of our explainer today. The true threat to this organization was never just Victor or Rebecca. It was the systemic silence. It was a culture that taught brilliant, highly ethical people like Maya and Ethan that they had to hold their breath, keep their heads down, and wait for permission just to state the obvious truth. True accountability isn't just punishing the bad guys. It means building a system where honesty doesn't require permission in the first place.
So as we wrap up, I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Think about your own workplace dynamics for a second. The everyday routines, the quiet conversations by the coffee machine. If the formal consequences suddenly vanished from your office room today, what would your real company culture reveal? Would it be a solid foundation of trust? Or just a series of hidden receipts waiting to be found? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this breakdown empowered you to look a little closer at your own environment, and I will see you in the next one.